Well, welcome to a new episode of Beyond the Youth Room podcast. I am Keith Seymour, and this is
Ryne.
and we are here to talk to you about how to follow up with new believers that come to Christ in your youth ministry. So stay tuned. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Edge Clubs, and we actually use Edge Clubs in our own youth ministry to train students on how to share the gospel and to lead a after-school public middle school and high school ministry at their schools. If you're interested in getting this free training, we have the online training all online now, and it's completely free. We have nothing to sell you. You can go to edgeclub.org/training, and we'd love for you to check it out. Now, this topic is a very important topic because you've actually seen a lot of new students in your youth ministry. We've talked about this before, but you've also seen a lot of new believers in your youth ministry. And so tell us a little bit about what's been happening. There's been kind of like a miniature revival, not to the scale that we see like in Acts 2, where 3,000 people came to Christ in one day, as we were talking about earlier in Peter's his first sermon. Mm-hmm. But you've seen some new students come to Christ as a result of just being effective in having students invite their friends, sharing the gospel every week. And so hopefully, as we're making that shift as youth ministries where we're trying to emphasize gospel advancing ministry, not just like meeting together or just hanging out or whatever, not social stuff only, but to really, really focus on advancing the gospel among teenagers in our area. Mm-hmm. What are some things that we can do to follow up with new believers that would kind of help them to grow in their newfound faith? And so you've started some different aspects of changing programs. Mm-hmm. You developed some, you're asking about how other people are using resources. And so talk to me about your new plan on how to follow up with new believers as you've seen new students come to Christ. So one, share a little bit about what the Lord's doing in your own youth ministry, and then share some of the resources that we can use in our own ministries. And you taught on this in our local youth leader network recently, and I was taking notes. I was like, wait, can you repeat that again? Because it was like so good. So go ahead and share what's happening.
Yeah. So I've been in youth ministry coming up on 5 years, and but I have the benefit of having some other youth leaders who've been in youth ministry for upwards of close to 40 years. And they're like,
that's not me.
No. But they're like, we've never seen anything like this before. And it is, I want to be clear, it is not because of anything that we as humans are doing. It's just because of God has just been blessing, and God, we just plant and water, and God gives the increase. So we've just started planting and watering more. That's all we've started doing. But yeah, we in the past 12 months, rolling 12 months, we have seen 61 individuals trust Christ through our student ministry. Now, some of those are actually parents too. We've had kids lead parents to Christ. Yeah. We've had kids lead their siblings to the Lord, or friends. We've also had a lot of kids trust Christ through our ministry. So, yeah.
Well, first, let me stop you there, because there might be some people that are listening that just simply don't believe that.
Yeah.
That just seems crazy, because it's not been their experience in their own church or their own youth ministry. And they've been faithful to proclaim the gospel. They've been faithful to that, and they're just not seeing that happen. Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to make sure that we're being clear that it's, the results are up to the Lord, and these are people that have indicated that they've trusted Christ. Obviously the Lord knows their heart ultimately. Mm-hmm. We can't, know for sure, what was genuine or not. But, but I would say just knowing you personally and knowing, how you've been serving in this way and faithfully proclaiming, you're not just saying, you're not just padding the numbers. There's been some really cool stuff that transformational stuff that only the Lord, working in their lives could explain. Right.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that was clear for listeners that are like, yeah, right. He's just counting hands, per finger raised.
Yeah.
That's how many, and it's not really about that. I've seen this, in just, even just how you've explained the transformation of families and people being sensitive to sin and growth and all this stuff that they're experiencing. So I just want to throw that out there, just for people that are like, yeah, right. He's just totally.
Yeah, no, it's been, there's so many evidence of fruit that has now been born out of those salvations. Baptisms, kids we have now getting baptized, kids bringing their lost friends to Christ who have now trusted Christ. We had a girl, she got saved January 31st. And since that time, she has led one of her other friends to Christ. And then recently, one of her other friends, he came to know Christ last week at youth group. And then her mom has come to know Christ. So in the past month and a half, she's led 3 people to the Lord. And it's all God. Praise God. I mean, it's nothing we're doing. So
well, and on that note too, like, we often kind of think like in the Christian world, it's like, okay, you need to go through this training before you can actually share your faith, or you can, you have to be a Christian for so long before you're really effective in serving. And we found, and this is experience for both of us, that like students that are new found in their faith are usually the most excited about their faith to share it. And so, yes, I mean, and we always say this with, with Edge Club stuff, is if they know enough to believe, they know enough to share. And yes, they're going to get it wrong. Like they're going to say weird things, or like, but they're learning themselves, but that's going to be a key to rapid growth too for them if you get them sharing and joining that call circle where they're praying and caring and sharing.
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of what we'll talk about today, but I think that's been the biggest thing is I kind of had a mindset shift of like, the kids who are really passionate about this are the kids who have just come to Christ themselves because they know the brokenness. I mean, we've talked about it. It's like we're more of a spiritual ER than we are anything else right now. It's like, kids just, hey, I've tried everything the world has to offer and none of it has worked. What does God say? Yeah. And that's really what we've seen. So my prayer is that it just continues to grow. My prayer is that I don't get in the way of it, but it is out of control in a good way. And we were talking a little bit. It's like it's gotten to the point now where, who knows who else has trusted Christ, right? I mean, we're just doing our best to be like, okay, follow up and have conversations. But that's why I've become so passionate about new believer follow up. And so there's a few elements that I think, whether you have one kid come to trust Christ in your ministry, and in the course of a year, or whether you have hundreds of kids trust Christ or parents trust Christ, it doesn't end there. It's the beginning of their journey. And so that's what we're passionate about too, is not just saying, sweet, you trusted Christ. Yeah. Check box. Let's go on to next.
We're called to make disciples, not converts, right?
Correct.
So like we want to make sure that we're making a disciple, like we're following through with that new believer.
Yep. So we had to put some systems in place, and some programs in place that helped us. And you might be watching and you're like, I don't have time. So whatever you're going to say, I promise none of this is a ton of extra work. But it is extremely beneficial and helpful for the gospel to go forward. So as we talked about, they're essentially, when I look back down at this and said, okay, we have all now these kids come to trust Christ. The old way of just like, well, let's meet one-on-one and let's talk about it. Like that's still obviously the best way. Like, and we still have one-on-one conversations with each of these students, but we don't have 61 youth leaders. So like, having a leader say, hey, let's meet one-on-one. We know that's like, we'd love to have that. But quite frankly, we don't, and Jesus worked in groups sometimes too. So we're like, okay, how do we work in groups? How do we do this? And so I kind of went back and boiled it down. It's like, okay, how do we actually get these kids from milk to start to kind of, get to the meat and start to be able to withstand kind of some of the theological beliefs that the world throws at us, or start to kind of really allow this to permeate their lives and not just be I've trusted Christ, I've given him my life, but for them to really understand what all that means. And so I found, as I was digging through, I found essentially 5 elements that of new believer follow-up that I think really allows a holistic, complete new believer follow-up. And so there's 5 elements, and then with each element, I'd love to give some resources or some ideas that have worked for us, and I'd love to hear your thoughts too of what has worked for y'all. So the 5 elements of new believer follow-up, the first is, do you celebrate it? Or is it, I raised my hand, I saw you sweet, awesome, is it like, no, do you actually celebrate it? And so the way that we've done that is we do the invitation very obvious way. Some of it is just one-on-one conversations, and they're like, yeah, I made that decision a couple weeks ago or whatnot. And so we find out about it later. But I just say, like, come up and give me a handshake, a hug, a fist bump, like whatever. I just want you to know that like somebody else knows and is excited about it. Yeah. And since we kind of started phrasing it that way, kids they come up and they'll shake your hand because they don't have to come up and say anything. You kind of know, it's kind of unspoken. And then I can start the conversation and be like, hey, tell me a little bit more about that. And it's really cool to hear. So first of all, do you celebrate it? Do you make it a big deal? And do you celebrate it with your youth group? I mean, people do it differently. We don't make them stand up in front of everybody, but we share. It's like, hey, here is how many of your peers or your family members have trusted Christ this past month. And we don't tie names to that, but our kids get to see that like they're part of something bigger. So do you celebrate it? A couple other parts of celebrating is, do you tell them, hey, tell somebody else? Like, tell your family members, tell your parents, like, the question we ask is, who do you think would be excited to hear about this? And tell them. We had one girl, she trusted Christ at our second youth group last week, and her grandma had previously emailed me saying, hey, I want her to get involved in youth group. Her parents aren't involved in church, but I want her to be involved in church. So I was like, tell your grandma, like she would love to hear that. And then also, as we talked about, it's like, tell the people who might not be excited to hear about it, but like, just go tell them, you know? So then they'll start to own it and understand like, hey, this is a big deal. This is super, super cool for them to share. And then lastly, one thing that we're still looking through is, do you have a gift, a small gift, and you don't want to be like, get saved so you can get this gift. That's not the point, but simply a gift for kind of to mark the occasion. Like, when you see in the Old Testament where they would build, where they'd stack stones, and that was kind of to remind them. It's like, do we have a way to help them remind when it's like, because I got saved as a little kid. It's like, I wish somebody would have given me something with a date so I could know my spiritual birthday, but I don't. I know when it happened, but I don't know the date. But it would be really cool to have that. So do we have something that kind of, even if it's just like a little note card that, you fill in and it's like today's date and I trusted Christ, and giving that to them? Do you have something to mark it? So the first is to celebrate it. The second is, do you give them God's word, right? Do they have a Bible? I have found myself shocked at how many of our kids do not have Bibles, especially the kids who've grown up in church. And we know youth group is tough too with like middle school. They're like, I have a kid's Bible, but I don't have, because I guess parents just don't think about it.
Study Bible.
Yeah. They're still, they got a picture Bible or things like that. So do you give them God's word? Because a lot of them, they don't have a Bible regardless. So number one, celebrate. Two, give them God's word. Do you have Bibles on hand ready to give out? It doesn't have to be, ideally you'd want it to be a nicer one, but even if you don't, do you just have something to give to them to where they can start reading and connect salvation with God's word and say, okay, this is now kind of the manual of like what this looks like.
Yeah.
And so we have we try and get a bunch of different Bibles and have them on hand. So the kids can kind of pick which one they want. We have all the same translation, but like we have journal Bibles, study Bibles, just regular Bibles. But one big resource is there's a series called the Artist series.
That's ESV only, right?
I believe so, correct.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty cool like CSB translations, even some NIV, some other things. But like the Artist series, what's cool is it's all different artwork. And so, if you have a lot of kids come to trust Christ and you're giving all the same Bible, it gets really confusing really quick when they bring it. It's like, whose is this? Who's this? And so then they kind of feel like it's personal. It's their Bible. And you write in it, hey, here's your Bible, and it was given to you by us on this date. So do you have a way to give them God's word? Do you have Bibles readily available and accessible for kids? Even if that's a class set.
And side note, what a great use of youth ministry budget if you have any.
Absolutely.
I mean, just, to stock up on good Bibles, like to give to students, and not just like ones that they'll lose, but it's something special and something that they'll hopefully cherish and grow from.
Yeah. And even if you don't have them on hand, I mean, we ordered them on Amazon, and it's like, hey, I'll have this for you when you come back next time. But I've started trying to have them on hand so then I can make that immediate connection that it's like, this is your new life. Like here, like go start.
It's good.
So celebrate it. Give them God's word. Number three, help them with the basics. We did a new believer group, which I'll talk about here in just a second. But the reason why I was so dumbfounded about this too is we were talking about how many of you have trusted Christ, and they were all kind of sharing, like, I just made this decision a couple months ago, whatever. And so then I was like, how many of you, I was like, all right, so we went on with our topic, and then I was like, okay, so raise your hand if you're like not sure that God created the world. And like some of the new believers like raise their hand, they're like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, all right, time out. Like we got to go back. But it's like we take so many things for granted because a lot of us grew up in church, or I know your background isn't quite grown up in church, but you were around believers at a young age from salvation, like when you were saved. And some of these kids are coming to know Christ and they have nobody.
They don't know. Yeah.
They have nobody. And so to them, it's like, I just know there's a God who loves me, and he died for me, and he paid the penalty for me, and I've given my life to him. I don't know anything else. And so I was like, okay, we got to have a way to get these kids like the very, very basics. And so I started sourcing like, what are some great new believer studies that they can do on their own? So you give them a Bible, and then you give them this study and say, read this when it says to read it, write down what your thoughts are for this, and let's talk about it. But a couple of great resources. There's one by Now by Youth Ministry 360. There is Foundations of Beliefs by the Daily Grace Company, which is really great for teen girls. I know there's if maybe they're a little bit older, the 30 days to understanding the Bible. I even wrote one for our students, 6 weeks to understand the Bible, to walk through too. So point being, you can find what works best for you. You can find endless resources. There's a lot of great ones too. Some that are connected to, to various denominations, I think even as well. But do you have those available to where it's like, okay, it's like the new believer starter pack. I just got saved. We're making a big deal of it. We're giving them a Bible. We're giving them a book, and that helps celebrate it too. Like they understand. So, so celebrate it. Give them God's word. Help them with the basics. Number 4, give them a place to ask their questions. It's intimidating when you walk in the room and you're like, I feel like everybody else knows this, and I don't know it. Yeah. And that's what we were getting from some of them is like, even in their small groups, and we have really opening and welcoming kids, they were just kind of afraid to ask their questions because they were like, I think everybody else.
And I think that's like, for people that have been a follower of Christ for a long time, it's hard to like put yourself in that situation again to like, you have to like go back and remember like, what was it like to be a new believer and to feel intimidated by other people's knowledge of scripture or that so that's a good thing to do to provide that.
Yeah, so the big thing we try and do is we try and connect them with a leader in some aspect. It's like, okay, so let's tell your small group leader. And so it's not all on you as the youth pastor or youth leader. So we try and bring their small group leader into that conversation. Hey, they trusted Christ tonight. Hey, let's, they can help you through this. If you have any questions, ask them. But we also did tweak some programming stuff to try and get to where they could ask questions. So one of the things we actually did is we started a new believer small group. And so we were just like, all right, there's a lot more of you than we can really handle. So let's just try and do this together. And so we literally, I stepped out of my small group. We merged another small group, so is it ideal? No, but it's the best thing we could do. And so we just said, okay, hey, next week we're going to start this new believer or non-believer group. We even said it like that. And we're going to walk through the basics of the Bible, the basics of Christianity. I mean, we're talking like in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There was a man and a woman named Adam and Eve. And you're probably laughing because I talked to you a little about the story. It's like, I was like, okay, so in the beginning, God, and they're like, what? Like, what did he do in the beginning? And I was like, he created the heavens and the earth. And I was like, okay, so God, telling the story, God flooded the earth. He thought he's going to start off with a man named, and they're like, who? And I'm like, Noah. Okay, all right. And so like even me was like shocking to me. It's like, okay, I can't take anything for granted. I got to go back. So give them a place to ask questions. We started a new believer, non-believer group where we literally said, look, if you don't know anything or if you just got saved, this is all brand new to you, just go to this group tonight. Yeah. And we're just going to talk about it, and we're going to see, we're just going to be open and honest about where we are. And so we started it the first night, we had 10 kids. So it was like, I was nervous. I was like, are we going to have any of these kids? But it was like, we had 10 kids. And so I said, this is a great place to invite your non-believing friend, because we're going to go through the basics, and there's no question off limits. Like there never is in our youth ministry, but like if your friend says, I don't believe in God, this is the place to bring them. And so we started the first week with 10 students. The next week we had 15 students, and the third week we had 20 students. And so it became really clear that we had hit a, something that they wanted, because there's like, we want a place where we can just ask our questions.
You had a great response, like just from that initial starting.
Yep. And so, there's some other great things that you can do that too if you're limited in time wise. Bible Project has a lot of great videos that are awesome on that too as well. But just putting together a place for them to get them together and be like, okay, look, we're all new here, and they can be open and honest about it. And there's a lot of freedom in that. Ask any questions you got. And that's been really cool. So celebrate, give them God's word, give them the basics, give them a place to ask their questions. And then last, connect them with other believers. So is your small group environment, or do you have a time in your programming where they can really make connections with other kids? Not just large group programming, large group lessons, which there's nothing wrong with large group. We have large group elements too. But do you have time in their programs to really help them get connected with other believers, other peers who are further along in their walk who can help them as well? Do you have time in your programmings where you can help them make those connections, or they can kind of self-identify, be like, hey, you just trust Christ, I just trust Christ, like let's introduce them or get them together. And we've found it to be a really good response. So yep.
Now, not all of our listeners might have the same question because of the different belief of their church background. But we both come from churches that have believers baptism. So my first question, this is what I asked you too, like with the Youth Leader Network when you taught this, was At what point in that process do you encourage them to get baptized?
Yeah.
And so what would you recommend? So how far out would that be? Would that be like immediately? Like, because we look at the book of Acts, and it's like they were saved and then baptized the same day. Like it was, and so, but we want to like help them understand things and like be at a certain level of understanding, but maybe not. So like, where's your belief on that? Like when would you encourage them to get baptized?
Yeah, so the way that our church does it, I'm sure is different from other people, but we have probably quarterly baptisms, and we try and make a big deal out of it to where we're this past time we had 16 people get baptized on one Sunday, and it's just really cool. It's a big celebration element. So we always push them towards the next baptism and say like, here's the next baptism, but with a caveat. Because we were at winter camp, and this kid came up to me. He just got saved like a couple months ago, and it's like 12:05, 5 minutes past curfew. It's 15 degrees, and he's like, "Will you baptize me in the creek right now?" I was like, "No," like no. And the reason being, and if he was smart, he would have brought up Philip and the Ethiopian. What keeps me from being baptized right now? And I would have had to be like, all right, let's go do it. But no, but I think with kids, we want to be careful sometimes too, because we've had parents who are like, hey, like I'm not sure if I like what I believe here. And so we've had parents tell kids, be like, let's just wait a little bit too. So I think with youth ministry, you want to bring the baptism is a great time to bring the parents in too, especially if you don't know where they are. Because we've had parents say, hey, I don't want my kid getting baptized. And we've told the kids, be like, hey, look, baptism isn't necessary for salvation. So we encourage it. We want you to be baptized right away, because that's what the Bible says. So there's nothing keeping you. But when working with students, it's a great time to bring the parents involved too, because then we have a conversation with those kids. It's like, hey, once you're 18, let's get baptized. But it is a part of, it's not salvific. So we're gonna honor the parents a little bit here. So I think we encourage them right away. But we always want to, that's a great time to bring the parents in as well, because you might find out a lot of different things about their faith background. We had a parent, and she was like, we don't believe this. We're fine if our daughter believes this, but we want her to wait a little bit before she officially does this, because we want her to make sure she knows what she believes. But I think that's the biggest thing is if you can sit down, they're required to have a meeting with us before they're baptized. If they can articulate what it is, then they're good to go right then and there.
Yeah. And we used to do that. We had like beach camps that we would do baptisms in the ocean, like after students gave Christ. And the feedback that we got was like the parents wanted to be there for it. Like, so I would say like, like you were saying, involve the parents. But one of the things though that I would suggest too is like, for that reason, is like to make it a big deal, like where they can have their family involved, because it's a great opportunity to invite non-believing family or friends, whatever. It's like, hey, come see my baptism, whatever. And we've even had people give their life to Christ at a baptism service. And so it's always encouraging to see how they publicly proclaim, their relationship with Christ. And so I was sharing with you that we had a lot of new believers come to Christ at a youth ministry I was involved in South Carolina when I was in college. And I mean, like total unchurched kids, like just never even seen a baptism service. And so we had a Sunday night service at this particular church that's when we do the baptisms. And it was a Baptist church, and they had like a baptismal at the back, whatever. And so they'd open it up for these baptism services. And so there was this one kid that had come to know Christ, and again, no church background at all. So he had never been to a baptism service. So he'd signed up to be baptized after I encouraged him to. And then like the day before, he was like freaking out because he was like, wait, what did I sign up for? Like, I don't even know what this, like, and so we were trying to explain it to him and stuff. And he's like, so like I just get up there and I get in like the water, and then like, cause like, he didn't like know the very basics of just like how to actually like, what do you do? And then at the very end, he's like, so what do I wear? And I was like, this is a moment that I could take advantage of and really just for my own amusement, mess with him a little bit. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, like, well, what do I wear to get baptized? I said, you don't wear anything. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, you don't have, like, just because it's like symbolic of being born, like when you're born, you're born naked. And so when you're born again, like symbolically for baptism, like you're being, and he was like, wait, so I'm going to get up in front of the church, like naked. And I was like, well, it's not weird or anything because like people see it all the time. Like, and he's like, really? And he was so concerned, which he should have been. Yeah. And then, but I let it play on for a little bit until that morning. No, I'm just kidding. No, I told him a few minutes afterwards, but it was pretty fun while it lasted to kind of see the the sweat.
Youth ministry of the '90s was a wild time, man. That's all I got to say.
What are you saying? The '90s? wasn't.
When was this?
I'm not that old. This was in the 2000s. It was this century.
01?
No, it's like 04. Way after
I was
01.
in
90s. Come on, man.
third grade in 04.
All right. Yeah, which we found out that I'm a geriatric millennial, so I'm like the oldest millennial.
Yes.
And you're still a millennial, but the youngest
Last
millennial.
year,
So
96.
we're in the same generation.
We are.
We're in the same class.
You
So
can't say your generation.
so you can't even say that I'm old anymore because that would be making fun of you.
I've never said you're old. I just said I was in third
Well,
grade when you were doing youth ministry.
Well, I started when I was in third grade too.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Not really. All right, so those 5 things are huge, and you encourage people. What we talked about with baptism to jump in as soon as they can, as soon as they're ready. And so with that, I want to have a couple rapid fire questions that I'm gonna ask you, and you're gonna ask me some too, I think. And so I'm just curious because some people have done, and I've kind of migrated on this. At first, I was kind of firm on it actually, but yeah, I'm curious to see what you do. So when you're teaching like a message or a sermon or a talk, whatever, do you teach with an iPad? Do you print off notes? Do you handwrite notes? Do you use a paper physical Bible, or do you use your iPad for all that?
I always have a physical Bible with me. Now, I mean,
So physical Bible and then also an iPad? Or do you use paper?
So I always have a back monitor whenever I'm teaching. So I don't use an iPad. No. I find iPads to be just oversized phones. I don't really see the point much in them. But if you love them, great. They're good. But no, I always use paper Bible. And then yes, if I'm teaching, it's always slides based for me because that's how my brain works. And so slides are kind of what helps me to know.
So do you have anything in front of you, or you just?
I have a back
depend on the
confidence monitor.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. Now when I'm like,
And what if that doesn't work?
You're
just preaching
normally
from
I know
memory.
my slides. I mean, but like if I'm preaching main Sunday service, then yes, I have printed notes, printed slides too. But no, I tried like technology once and it was like it timed out, and then it's like you're in the middle like putting in your passcode, and I know there's ways you can like make it work, so it's not that. But no, I can't do an iPad.
Okay, so for the past 16 years, I've been 100% Google Docs. So every message that I've ever done since then has been on Google Docs.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I now use now what I used to do is I would actually print it off and then teach from a piece of paper, like in physical Bible and stuff. But now that I think iPads have become so much more reliable, as far as they don't crash as often, or at least I've had good experience with them. And so because of that, I can access my messages from anywhere. So even if my iPad crashes, I could pull it up on my computer or my phone or whatever, because it's all in Google Docs. And so that actually helps for me. So I usually teach from an iPad because of that.
Well, I'll have to go tell my church that I need an iPad.
Hey, there you go.
Got to buy me an iPad.
Yeah, maybe that's a good leverage.
So you teach from physical Bible though, right? Like you have your notes and then you have paper Bible?
So I usually have the scripture in my notes that I'll read, but I'll have my physical Bible a lot of times just as I usually don't read it directly from the physical Bible, but I'll have it, typed out.
Well, my question is for students, do you guys allow them to use their phones as Bibles, or do they have to use paper Bibles?
Man,
this is your rapid fire question.
Yeah, I discourage using phones for Bibles because there's just so much more distraction. Now, my iPad, the only thing I really have on my iPad is Bible study tools, and I can't even check my email or anything on my iPad. So for me, it's kind of different.
Yeah.
But even for me with my phone, if I get my phone out, I'm working on this, I'm a work in progress, but I immediately it's just by default, I'm checking on Facebook or checking my email or checking the text.
Well,
so I can imagine for kids that are spending probably 4 times more time on their phones than I am, that it's going to be pretty distracting to have their Bible.
Yeah. Well, and we heard that one story of the one kid who, in a huge student service, airdropped an inappropriate photo to all the other kids in the student service. Yeah. And that's a lot of emails you have to send home. So paper Bible for sure.
Yeah. So paper Bibles. So we do encourage our students. We have a
class set.
Class set of Bibles that we get out and put on the tables and stuff for discussion and stuff. So, okay. So favorite Bible translation.
We use the ESV, but I was raised NIV, and ESV to me, I like it because I know, it's close, the closest word for word. But there's some verses that like I memorized NIV and then I look at it in an ESV and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So I would.
I think ESV, like as I've memorized a lot more verses in ESV, it is harder. Like it doesn't flow well in my mind. Like it doesn't make sense. It's not how I would say it often. But yeah, NIV 84 is my favorite.
Was there an updated NIV? After?
There's been an updated one
because that would have been the one
you actually can't get 84 in print anymore. Like it's like like the only Bibles you can buy it in 84 NIV 84 are like ones that were made before the update. So even if you go to Bible Gateway, it's not the NIV 84. I think they have like the latest version of NIV.
Couldn't tell you what the difference are.
Yeah, I could, but yeah. So my favorite. There's lack of gender stuff in it. So like instead of saying he or she, it'll say like they. And
the 84 will or the new one?
No, the new one.
The new one. Okay. Yeah.
So that's why like it was under like a big scrutiny. It was called like, I mean, people were going so far as to call it the neutered Bible. Like the NIV. And
again, this
stand for neutered.
This was all before I was born.
Yeah. No, this was like 2011, dude. It was recent. It wasn't. I think the first like the T, they called it the TNIV was the original, or like the first. Like,
I think we moved to the ESV by then. I don't know. If
it was later. It wasn't. Okay. It wasn't like before you were born.
Dude, this is such
84 though was before you were born.
This is such a deep rabbit hole. Like,
okay, favorite Bible translation. 84. I use the ESV. I'll just say that. I use the ESV to make it simple. All right. So, okay, favorite camp, summer or winter? So you're taking the students to summer and winter camp. Now, what is your favorite?
That's tough. I would say summer, just because I like the summer so much better than winter. But we've been going to the winter camp now for 15 years and like love going back there. Kids loving go back there. But I'm just like, give me heat over cold any day of the week.
I'm the opposite. I love winter camp.
Right?
So here's the reasons why winter camp is superior. So it's shorter. So you have to like make the use of every single moment. Like, so like with summer camp, I feel like, like you're not I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like winter camp, I'm like, we only have this weekend. Like, so we have to like, focus on every second and, be more like alert and mindful of like utilizing. In summer camp, I feel like, well, we're here for 4 days, 5 days, whatever. Like, and
it's great.
So it is great. But I'm also not a huge summer fan. Like I don't like swimming or the beach or like,
you don't have to.
I know, but I'm just saying, I feel like summer, there's more activities you could do, but a lot of them are water related. And I don't know. I still, even though I've been in youth ministry for so long, and I'm not saying like it's wrong, but I'm just saying like water sports and co-ed youth ministry, like teenagers, hormones, like not always the best idea. So winter camp, they're bundled up. You don't have to worry about that aspect of.
Dude, you get to blob some kids at summer camp. That's well,
I was banned from the blob. Did I tell you about this? The kid, they never found the kid again.
Oh,
I jumped on it and like I think he's still in low orbit. So that would, it's just embarrassing. Maybe just because I'm a bigger guy, the blob is embarrassing to me because they have to match your weight. And there's like no one kid that can match my weight. So they're like, oh, we need 3 kids to be Keith.
At winter camp, the zip line, at winter camp, the horses, there's a weight limit. And let's just say I can't ride horses at winter camp. So.
Oh, that doesn't bother me. I don't even want to ride a horse. Yeah. All right. So how soon, so this one's good. Best no supply youth ministry game. Which by the way, like this is the only games that I use.
Yeah, I don't
do the whole supplies things like
define no supply. Like,
well, you don't need anything.
Like literally nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else? How would you define no supply?
Well, like no supply. For instance, we have a game called Gargon, which is like you need a lantern and 3 batteries, and it's like
that's supplies.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. All right. So can we have music?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, then there's a game called Horse and Jockey, and there's a bunch of variations you can do of it. So there's Horse and Jockey in partners. You can also do pyramid schemes in 3s.
You're talking like a foreign language here.
Dude, so Horse and Jockey I found.
Why have you never shared this with
pyramid
me?
schemes I made up. So all you do is like it's like musical chairs essentially. But you find a partner and they're walking one way like clockwise. The outer ring is where their partner is, and they're walking the other way. And so when the music stops, they have to find their partner. And for horse and jockey, they have to like jump on their piggyback. And so the last one to do it is eliminated. And so you just keep going until it's like the last two.
Yeah.
And then pyramid schemes is they had to make a human pyramid of 3. So like the music, so they had 3 circles going simultaneously. The music stops, and it's just chaos. And so they're making like human pyramids. So those are like super simple games that our kids love. We also do Australian musical chairs.
I didn't know there was a Australian version.
So it's because they line up chairs in a circle, and then we put spoons in the middle. So I guess that's technically a sply, but you can use anything. And when the music stops, so the one kid is sitting down, and then the other student is walking around, and when it stops, they have to go under the chair into the middle to get a spoon. And it's like, it's so much fun. Yeah. They hate it, but like they love it at the same time. So it's one of those where it's like fun for me to get to do.
Yeah. My like go-to, I mean, like just classic, like in a second, everybody kind of understands the rules. Easy to explain is train wreck. I mean, so you get, or like never have I ever creation. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's like my go-to, you know, the easy one. But one of like, I don't know if you know this one or not, but it is like, you can literally play it for hours or days. In fact, I think I have at some point. Like we were like stranded, like we had this mission trip one time that we got there, and basically everything that we had planned beforehand had been done by the previous like youth group that visited like before, and like they didn't tell us. So we were like, basically we're trying to like come up with stuff like that. And we did end up playing this game for like hours at a time sometimes while we were waiting to plan the next activity. But it's called Big Booty. And there's a variation where you can call it Big Bubba if you're not comfortable, but it's talking about like pirates booty, not like, not like the physical. Okay. So anyways, you get in a circle, and each person has like, you have one person that's, let's just say Big Bubba for the sake of this conversation. One person is Big Bubba, and they have corresponding people all the way around the circle numbered. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, however many people there are. And you like hit your knees and or like clap your hands like in rhythm, and then you actually say a number, like you basically pass it to that person, but they have to say it in rhythm. So to start off, you would say like, Big Bubba to the 1, and then the 1 would have to basically say 1 to and then say another number, or he can pass it back to Big Bubba. Anyways, you go around, and if you say it off beat, then you're eliminated, and you go all the way to the end, and everybody behind you moves up a number. So that's why it can be confusing, but it's like, it's more of a high school game. Middle school game, I mean, middle school minds, they're like, it's
getting
like
them to
hard
sit
to
still and clap a rhythm.
They're not sitting, so you're standing the whole time.
Oh, okay.
But rhythm is a big thing that I realize middle schoolers, they're very like, and also hand-eye coordination. Like you have to be pretty coordinated to think about all these things at the same time. So I'd say more for high school, but it's a pretty fun game that we do. Okay, so what movie would you watch with Jesus?
So this came up because episode 21. Episode 21. The 1 minute question, which we'll do in a second, was when does a music or movie become sinful? And so we explained like our answer of like, if you're comfortable watching it with Jesus, then it's probably, okay. If you'd be uncomfortable, then it's probably not God honoring. And so we posted on TikTok, and it went like, it went pretty far on TikTok. And one guy commented, and he said, the first movie I would watch with Jesus is Iron Man. And I don't know why, it just like cracked us up that like this idea of like, I'd invite Jesus over to watch Iron Man. So what movie would I watch with Jesus? I like war movies, and I don't know what Jesus would think.
Well, I would be curious to know, like, I mean, so like history movies would be fascinating, because I'd be like, was that accurate, Jesus? Like, what? Like,
instead of having to look it up on my phone.
Yeah, I'm saying like, well, did that actually happen that way? And so this is why I chose my answer. I would watch the Jesus film with Jesus.
The new one or the old one?
Like the classic one. Right?
Oh, the Jesus one. Okay.
Wait, there's a new one?
Well, I was thinking like the Jesus Revolution. I didn't know.
Oh, no. Like I'm saying like the Jesus
the historical.
Film, like, the one that it's been played like, billions of times.
Gotcha.
And basically just to say like, was that really how it was? Like how accurate did they, it's almost like you get an opportunity to sit down with someone that had a movie made about them, and you say like, did they do a good job? Like, was that accurate? So that's why I would choose the Jesus film, or, like Passion of the Christ or something, something like that would be basically saying like, okay, like how accurate did they make that?
Now my answer sounds dumb.
Or Cars. Yeah, Cars would be. Just because I like the movie Cars.
Yeah.
And would just want to hang out with Jesus and watch it.
My favorite movie is Field of Dreams. So like,
It's a good movie.
I don't know.
Have you watched it recently?
Yeah.
So I watched it like for the first time because I watched it a lot as a kid, and then
Mm-hmm.
I showed my boys. We watched it together, and I was like, there was just things I didn't remember about it, like little details. Where I'm like, wow, that like didn't make sense, or like that, like there was like little like inconsistencies that I didn't realize. Like, yeah. So, anyways, great movie, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Did it
James
really
Earl
happen
Jones.
like that, Jesus?
Kevin Costner.
Did they really come out of the corn?
All right, let's do our 1 minute questions.
Yep.
All right, so a couple of them. Now this one's like a silly question that you're gonna ask me, but it's interesting
only
to hear
asking it
different, like because you
you-
want to know the answer. That's
No,
why
because
you're-
you brought it up.
Okay.
All right.
Well, this is a question like new believers ask, or teenagers like they learning about the Bible. So okay, go ahead.
A student asks you.
Wait, do we need to have a 1 minute countdown?
Oh,
It's not gonna even take.
I don't think this one
Yeah,
should
it's not
take a
even gonna
minute.
Take a minute. I'll kind of display the two theories.
All right. I'll put the timer on just because you want the timer. All right. A student asks you, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons?
Okay, so the reason why that is a question is because belly buttons are typically from babies that are born. That's how their moms fed them in the womb.
Through the umbilical cord.
Through the umbilical cord, yeah. So then the question is, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons because they were created as adults? And so I would say no, they didn't have belly buttons for that reason. So there wasn't a physical reason for them to have belly buttons. Now, the only thing that I would say is like a caveat is if God in his mercy wanted to create them with belly buttons so that their kids would not be confused about why their parents don't have, in other words, if they saw their parents' bellies and didn't have belly buttons, Cain and Abel would be like, hey, why do we have them and you don't?
Maybe that's why Cain.
Maybe God. Yeah. So with that though, I would say no, he didn't have to create them with belly buttons because there was no physical response. But that's my answer.
That took you exactly a minute, and I don't think it should have.
Yeah. The short answer would be no.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So how do you know? So this is a question for you. So do you have a minute timer set?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How do you know what your spiritual gifting is or what your spiritual gifts are?
So this is a big one that there might be some variances of denomination or, some differences of opinion on that. But my big thing is, because kids ask me all the time, I always found it to be we over mystify them in terms of we're so paralyzed with inaction until we find out what our spiritual gift is. I've always found just start serving God and he'll start to reveal to you, through what you find yourself being gifted at, or what others tell you, hey, we think, this is, you might be gifted in this area. And I think that's normally how a big way that God reveals his spiritual giftings is through other people. And so, when I first started teaching, it was please tell me if I'm not any good at this, because I don't want to be that person that everybody is up there. So I think just start serving God and he'll start to show you through those services what your talented are, what your giftings are, and run from there. But you're not limited to one. We're all called to do all of them, but we might be more gifted in one area than the other.
Yeah, I'm not called to administration.
I've noticed.
Yeah. So with that though, I would say, just to add to that too, it's hard to move a ship that's not moving. It's hard to steer a ship that's not moving. And so get moving, start serving, and then the Lord will kind of direct your path and kind of affirm you in different ways. Yeah. Not to be spiritual gifts, not to be confused with physical talents.
Yes.
I can entertain people with a straw, but that's not a spiritual gift. Maybe it is. Maybe it's.
Maybe we'll have to do that on this.
What would that fit under? I don't think that would fit under. I could use it for evangelism. I could probably share the gospel using that.
We'll have to see it.
Straws.
Okay.
All
right. Last one.
Actually, I think that's all the time we have for today. So we'll have to say for the next episode for the last one. So
gotta watch it to find out what it is.
Yeah, watch that next episode. So since we started this podcast, it has been viewed by over 152,000 people, which is mind-blowing that we can actually just create something and then it gets blasted out there. And I've said this several times to you that if the Apostle Paul found out that we have an iPhone and we're not utilizing it for ministry, I think you'd be mad at us. So so I think if you're out there and you haven't started creating content, get out there and do it, because we're seeing some amazing results. Some of you guys have reached out to us asking us to cover certain things, and we are blown away by the support that you guys have shown us. If you have benefited from this, please share it, like it, comment below, whatever you got to do to help other people to see this. If you benefited from it, share it with other people that could benefit from it as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode.